والنجم إذا هوى ما ضل صاحبكم وما غوى.
Now we're going to get to the second section. And in this section, we're going to see an immediate connection with what happened before with the words أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ, but I'll talk about that at the end. Right now, in this 30-minute brief session before Salah, I want to get through some quick Wikipedia facts. They're not from Wikipedia, what I'm saying. Just information that you just got to just listen to it. You don't have to write everything down or take pictures or nothing. I'm just going to walk through it. And you need to know something about three goddesses, actually, that Allah will talk about that the Arabs believed in. Okay, those are Lat, Manat, and Uzza. This ayah will have Lat and Uzza, and the third one, Manat, is going to be in the next ayah. Okay, so we don't know a lot about these idols, but there's a famous ancient book, Ibn al-Kalbi's Kitab al-Asnam, the book of idols, where he actually did research whatever he could find on every idol. There's some kalam about the reliability of the information in it, because we're talking about pre-Islamic Arabia, and we know that the Muslims, when Allah gave Islam victory, we destroyed the temples and all of that, right? So the ancient history of those religions, we have less and less of that information. So the little information we have, I'm going to share with you some of those snippets. So the Kaaba was the main temple for idols, but the Arabs actually had temples all over Arabia. And so they kept idols usually in temples. And because they saw the Kaaba as the main idol, they used to actually, I'll get to that later. Sometimes they would take the idol and make it into like a human form, like a person standing with a sword, or a woman, draped up or whatever. They would have these figures as idols. Or sometimes it would just be like a stone, like a large stone, like a cube-shaped stone, or like a large, tall stone, like Stonehenge type stuff, right? That would be the shape of the idol. Now, they would put the idol, they had two possible choices. They would either put it in front of the Kaaba somewhere, or if they couldn't do that, they would give it some other temple somewhere near their own location, or even add multiple idols in like a different temple. So if this idol was for a certain goddess, but construction is expensive, so can you roommate with this other goddess and you guys can both share? So they did that sort of thing. Real estate was tough back then too. Okay, so now the classifications. If they were just made of stone and they were not carved up, like it wasn't like an amazing, like a Buddha type looking thing or whatever, then they would call it ansab. But if they resembled a bird, a snake, a person, or whatever, then they were called awthan or asnam, which are both words that are used in the Quran. All three of these are used in the Quran, right? But that's the naming scheme that they used. Now, because they used to do tawaf around the Kaaba, they figured that that's the right way to do any worship. So any temples they had in Arabia, they used to do tawaf there too. They used to go around it too. And because there was a sacrifice at the Kaaba, they used to also do sacrifices there. This is very important. He also argues that how did shirk start in Arabia? After Ismail alayhi salam's children became many and their religion became dominant, they spread all over. There were too populated, they couldn't stay all in Mecca. So they spread all over Arabia. But when they spread all over Arabia, they missed the Kaaba, because the Kaaba is associated with Ibrahim and Ismail. So they used to take pieces of the stone with them to their own village area and do tawaf of it by themselves. Like they made their own tawaf ritual, missing the Kaaba. Okay? And then later on, idols were brought in from Syria and other places for different kinds of needs. Anyway, the point is, many of these pagan rituals were inspired by what? The Kaaba, corrupted versions of what Ibrahim alayhi salam used to do. Now look at the anthropological view, the secular view. The secular view is, they're worshiping these temples and they're going around them in circles, and the Muslims do it too. They must have learned it from them. So what do? They reverse engineer it. They put the cart before the horse, right? We're saying, and what Allah has taught us is Tawheed came first and they corrupted into shirk. And they flip it and they say, oh, you see, these people, they're doing tawaf here, but there was tawaf going on near Ta'if, and it was going on near Nakhla, and it was going on there. So this was like an Arab thing. This is how the Western academic or the secularists, when they look at this history, they try to look at it and re-engineer it in this way. Anyway, so some things about each of these, Lat and Uzza and then Manat. Lat was actually not in Makkah. Lat was a lady in Taif, and it was represented a lady or a guy. They were confused about that, but it was like a large cubic rock. And the Quraysh, even though this goddess was in Taif, they used to worship it too. And you know how we have like Abdullah or Abdurrahman, right? Or Amatullah and things like that. We have names that are associated with Allah. So they used to have names associated with Lat. So they'd say Taymul Lat or Zaydul Lat. They would name kids like that. So like we put Allah at the end. And even in Urdu, we have like, Alladita and whatever. We have these kinds of names. So the same way they used to name with the name of this goddess in it. Okay. And in the seerah later on, after the conquest of Islam, the report is that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam instructed Mughira bin Shu'bah to destroy it, and he burned her temple down in Taif. So that's the few things we know. So we don't know a lot. We don't know a lot. We're going to come back to why we don't know a lot in a second. It's going to be important. Now, something more about Lat. Our Mufassirun are like, where does the word Lat come from anyway? So they're like, والأصل لوية بزينة فعل من لوى لأنهم كانوا يلوون عليه ويعتكفون للعبادة أو يلتوون عليه يطوفون. The root letters may be lam, waw, and ya, which means to lean. So they say they used to lean on it. They used to put bow before it, or they used to do tawaf, leaning in circles on it, right? And that's why it's called Lat. The thing you lean on or the thing you run around would be Lat. So why do you worship Lat? Because it's the thing you lean on. That's why I lean on it. That was their logic. Then other theory was رجل يلت السويق للحاج على حجر فلما مات عبدوا ذلك الحجر إجلالا له وسموه بذلك. They say there was a guy that used to, when people used to go to Hajj, he used to give them a lot of food in Taif. On their way to Hajj, he would give them a lot of food. And when that guy died, he used to always be sitting by a rock when he would give them food. When that guy died, he disappeared. And they're like, oh, he went inside this rock and became a god. And since that guy's name was Lat, this became Lat. And they worshipped Lat. That's a lot to deal with, but that's what they did. Anyway, today is going to be a dad joke day, just giving you a warning. Okay. أخرج الفاكهي عنه أنه لما مات قال له عمرو إنه لم يمت ولكنه دخل الصخرة فعبدوها وبنوا عليها بيتا or بيتا actually. So they said he didn't die, he went inside the rock. So they started worshipping the rock of Lat because the guy used to give them really delicious pizza. Anyway, so then we get to Uzza. Uzza is more recent than Lat and Manat. Manat is older, Lat is older. So these two Uzza is the newest one. So it's a new kid on the block. Okay. Appears as a theophoric element. I put the word theophoric there so you could feel like I'm really smart. I had to look it up too. This material is taken from a research paper written by Sharif Randawa. You can look it up. He's done a paper on the ancient gods that are mentioned in the Quran, the false gods that are mentioned in the Quran. Anyway, so that means that what this simply means is, you know how we say Abdullah, Abdurrahman, and they said Taymul Lat, right? So Abdul Uzza or Amatul Uzza, those kinds of names came later on. They're not ancient names. And that tells you that it's not as ancient of a god. This was a newer development. It was like a 2.0 or 8.0. I don't know what version. But that's what Uzza. Uzza is, by the way, for those of you that are familiar with Arabic, Al-Uzza is the feminine form of Al-A'az. Al-A'az, like Ahsan is Husna, and Akbar is Kubra, and Al-A'az is Uzza. That's where Uzza comes from. Okay, so it's the female mighty one, the mightiest one. Okay, so that's how they think. And that's why the greatest goddess of the Quraysh was Al-Uzza. They dedicated rivers and ravines to her name. They also dedicated other places other than the Kaaba. This is Uzza's territory. There was this one area called Ghabghab, and they dedicated that place as a sacred place for Uzza until Khalid ibn Walid came and said, we're done with that. And he was instructed to get rid of Uzza.